Williams veers left, pulls up, looking for the lead, and got it. Jalen Williams, 2 seconds, 1:11.109. Now SGA probing, piercing, spinning, hanging for the lead, and SGA knocks it down. The Thunder finally get the defensive stop, and SGA puts them in front.
I'm Kenrich Williams. You're listening to Topic Thunder.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Topic Thunder. Immediately after the Game 6 in Indianapolis, we had a lot of people in attendance, either here or in Indiana. So part of the reason why I'm doing this solo is because Cone and Thunder Chats were in Indiana tonight. They brought as much good vibes and good luck charm as they could. Cone being, I think he was like 13-0 in attendance, and Dylan's lucky sweatshirt wasn't enough, but they were there. So they may be on, maybe not. I've not heard too much from them, but if they will be on, it'll be like, something quick. And then I was at Paycom today. I got a last minute ticket to go watch in the arena. It was very high energy early, not so much towards the end. But cool atmosphere regardless. I think that's something that they could do a lot more in the playoffs next year. I think they sat together, Sarah. I actually don't know. I think Dylan got his tickets later. But Alex and I were at the game. Alex and I did not sit together. In fact, we were literally on opposite ends of the court. He was on one baseline and I was on the other. But we did see each other at the game. So a lot of people were there. Tried as much as we could to get the good vibes in attendance. It wasn't enough. Yeah, that was a stinker. It was a stinker. So here's the deal. Here's the plan. We'll hopefully let some other people trickle in here in a bit. But for those of you live on YouTube right now, I'm kind of treating this as obviously a recap of the game. We'll talk about some of the mini negatives, but also try to get some positives in there. And then at the end, if people in the chat have anything else they want to mention, we'll talk about that too. Do a little Q&A. But if not, we'll I'll probably just end it after that quick little recap. So that's the plan. I think we might be able to do a Game 7 preview too before Sunday, but we'll see about that and get back to you guys on the situation. But yeah, Pacers, absolutely blew out the Thunder tonight. I know the final score was a 17-point win, but the entire fourth quarter was garbage time. They're up by 25 to 30 points. By the time all the starters sat out, it was just all in all a very, very, very bad game from the Thunder. I thought the Thunder lost this game just as much as the Thunder won it. And credit to the Pacers. I think the Pacers, sometimes my hat there, played a great, very intense, not desperate, but just high intensity game that you expect from a good team in the playoffs facing elimination. They brought that energy, and I think the Thunder just didn't. They didn't match it at all. So credit to them on that end. But I think also the Thunder just did not play the brand of basketball on both ends that they have been playing this entire time. El Sombre in the chat. What's up, man? I'll get to comments here in a second. I just want to do a quick recap first. So yeah, I want to talk about a few. I'm going to get the negatives out of the way first, and then we'll end on a few positives. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Let's start with the first thing. And this is I think is the most obvious problem, is the shooting. Game 5, we all talked about it here. We were all ramped up. We were like, how in the hell did we win a Game 5 making 3 3-pointers in an NBA game in the year of our Lord and Savior 2025? How do you do that in this modern day of basketball? They did it somehow. But the other thing, I don't remember if we said this explicitly on this podcast or if I just heard it somewhere else, but the idea was you can't do that again. You cannot expect to win an NBA Finals game making less than a handful of threes and do it consistently. And that proved true tonight because, again, the box score is a little bit mistelling because it says 8 of 30 from 3, but they did not. 5 of those threes came in the fourth quarter when it doesn't matter. It's like the G League players on either side. They made 3 threes again in an NBA Finals game, and on the road when nothing else offensively is working and the defense is also kind of not what it's pretty lackluster, you're not going to win that game. It's not even going to be close. There were just so many, shooting wise players that just did not live up to expectation. And pretty much everybody outside of Dub and Shea did not live up to what we expect them to do. You had Chet Holmgren, 4 points on 2 of 9 shooting, 0 of 3. You had Lou Dort, who made 1 3, but that 1 3 was with like 43 seconds left in the third quarter when you're already down 30. And then, oh, by the way, the Pacers just went and hit another 3 right after that, so it doesn't even matter. He was just completely a non-factor on offense. And we've seen this before from Dort. He's had some just completely useless offensively. He's always going to be a great defensive asset, but just like another one of those nights where he's basically got 0 points until the very end, and at that point it doesn't matter. You had Aaron Wiggins, 18 minutes and 5 points, 1 of 4. Isaiah Joe, yes, he had 11 points on 3 of 4 shooting, 2 of 3 from deep, but again, he only had 1 3 in the minutes that it mattered. He had 3 points. Granted, his 3 was a little bit more. I felt like could have been impactful. His 3 kind of came on that mid third quarter. Where the Thunder still felt like they had somewhat of a chance to win it. It came kind of right after the Tony Bradley technical foul, and you're like, oh, maybe we can get in their heads a little bit. Maybe we can capitalize on this momentum. And they did to some extent. They went on an 8-0 run. Part of that was that Isaiah Joe 3. But then, again, it was just the Pacers were like, yeah, let's just go on a 9-0 run. And now we're right back to where we started. They never, except for that one little point in that third quarter, they never got anything going offensively. And by the way, I should have said this earlier. They didn't score a basket. Neither team scored a basket in the first 3 to 4 minutes of the third quarter. The Thunder got stop after stop after stop after stop and never did anything with it. Now, I think a lot of that is on the hands of Lou Dort because Lou Dort was chucking a lot of threes during that point. Part of me wonders if Coach Dagnall was in the locker room just like, hey, the only way we're going to come back from, I think it was like a 22-point deficit at this point, is we got to start making more threes. And maybe Lou Dort took that to his hands, like, I got to make all the threes. And he tried to, and he just kept missing them. It was even one that was an air ball, uncontested, I think. It might have been a little bit contested, but just no offense from either team. But the Thunder needed the offense much more than the Pacers did at that point. And just nothing there. It all came again from the shooting. J-Dub, 16 points. He was 6 of 13, but again, 0 of 4 from 3. I thought he was doing really well scoring wise in the paint. I don't really know why I kind of understand why he went away from it in the second half, because again, you've got to get back in the game. You got to make threes, but if it's working, I don't know why you don't keep doing that. Richard and Ahmed and Lou in the chat. What's up? I'll get to your guys' comments here in a second. Just want to finish recapping real quick. So yeah, Dub, again, was pretty good driving to the basket. Got a lot of contact, had 4 or 5 from the free throw line. But again, the outside shooting, that's kind of what we're talking about right now. Shea only took 1 3. It was kind of in a moment in the first quarter where it was one of those Shea threes where he just sort of pulls up. There's no ball moving. He's just like, yeah, I'm going to take this 3 and try to capitalize on the little bit of momentum we had in the first quarter, and it just didn't go in. He never even tried to shoot after that. From 3. He was doing a really good job in sort of the 3 to 10 foot range. I felt especially late first quarter, early second quarter, even with Nembhard on him, he was doing a pretty good job of getting off of him. And when Mathurin was on him, he did a really nice job of that. But again, that isn't enough to keep the offense going. You can't just rely on Shea doing that and just getting 2-pointers when the Pacers are hitting 3-pointers on the other end. The math doesn't work out there. But he had it all things considered. I thought a really good game. Obviously didn't play the fourth quarter, so he only had 21 points. But in the minutes he played, I thought he did really well. And yeah, Isaiah Hartenstein shooting wise, I didn't think anything was too wrong with him. I think he did pretty decent offensively, and I think even in that third quarter when we did go on a stretch, very mini stretch, Isaiah Hartenstein was in the game for that. So, offensively, I didn't think anything too much of that end. But that's just on the one end of the basketball court. Let's talk about the other end of the basketball court, which was the Thunder defense. And to the same extent, I want to also talk about the Indiana defense, because one of the other things that was just so obvious so quickly was how bad the turnover battle was between these two teams. We all know, anyone who's watched this team during the season knows the turnovers are what generates a lot of the Thunder offense. Getting steals, even just getting quick rebounds off a missed shot is what gets the offense going on the other end, the transition plays. And it's just so startling to see the Pacers doing it to the level that the Thunder have been doing all season, and the Thunder just completely a non-factor on defense. I cannot believe how difficult it was for this Thunder offense to even just make simple perimeter outlet passes. Multiple times, it was either Halliburton, I think maybe Nembhard got one, where they just picked it off. It wasn't even an in pass. It was a pass around the perimeter, just one simple pass, and they couldn't even get those. That's what the Thunder do to other offenses. That's what we do as a defense to other offense. We disrupt every pass. We do not make anything easy for them. And they just did that to us tonight. I'm not smart enough to know what they did defensively to adjust to make this Thunder just completely out of sorts. Or maybe it's just that the Thunder were just out of sorts because they're out of sorts. I don't really know. But the point is like the Pacers showed up with a defensive intensity that reminded me only of this historic OKC Thunder defense. And the Thunder did not do that. They did not. And I wouldn't say it was a bad defensive night, and just, looking at it as in a vacuum. But when it's a team that's this good defensively, that was a bad night for them, because they were not closing out on a lot of those 3-point attempts. They were on some, but not as much as you think they will. They were getting a couple of turnovers, but they were not getting to the extent that the Pacers were. And they were not getting to the extent that we do on a regular basis. The turnover battle ended up being 21 turnovers for Oklahoma City and 10 turnovers for Indiana. And Indiana scored 19 points off of turnovers. And the Thunder scored 13 points off of turnovers. The turnover battle was phenomenally frustrated. So I don't have much more to say on that other than just pretty remarkable how starkly different it was. It felt like a Freaky Friday almost, in terms of how the defense was being played out there between these two teams. That's kind of it. Just, one other final comment. I already kind of mentioned Dub and Shea, but in general, the bench just needs to show up more. I get it's on the road, but you cannot expect just Shea and Dub to do everything. There was just no offense outside of those two, none at all. So one thing I'll kind of end with as somewhat of a positive, as a comment that Mark Daigneault had post game tonight when they're interviewing him. And the comment was, we put a lot of work to play that game at home. And he's talking about Game 7. The Thunder regular season matters for this reason right now, because we get to have a Game 7 at home, because we have the best record in the NBA, and we earned that right. Obviously, it feels weird. We're all a little bit down right now, but I think that if you are, looking at this through a more positive lens, we get to have an elimination game on our own turf. And you just got to hope at this point that after 2 days, two games, of poor shooting, that they will turn it around at home. And especially the bench players, and the role players, and Lou Dort will shoot better at home. You just have to think that way. We got one more game, and that's it. This is officially now, on Sunday, the most important game for the season, period. There will never be a more important game than this. And it is at home. And you've got to be a little bit appreciative of that. So we have 2 days in between then to rest up. And they just need to come out with more energy and more intensity than they did tonight. I can't believe I forgot to say this up to this point, but one other thing I forgot to mention that should be mentioned regarding intensity was TJ McConnell. I think he's kind of now getting up to the levels of PJ Washington for this team. I just cannot believe how many points he just generates for the Pacers, not even just by scoring, but just by like getting his hands in every pass. He did it again today where he just stole a pass in the backcourt. And I just can't believe how he's continuing to just wreak havoc on this team. It's just like a smaller Alex Caruso out there. And that little mid-range shot he has where he's sort of like leaning away and gets a little bit of separation despite his size. He just hits it. And that was part of the reason they went on that bigger run in the second quarter to go up by like 17 at that point. They outscored him by 15 points, and that was part of it. And we didn't have anybody on our bench that could do the same thing. And it's obviously it's not the only reason for losing by 30, but that was a big part of the momentum shift. So shout out TJ McConnell, I guess, but we got to figure that guy out in the next couple of days. So that's it. I'm going to end with, if anyone's in the chat and wants to add anything else, but I want to get to some of the comments that I missed earlier while I was doing a quick little recap. El Sombre, for what's worth, in the modern era, there's 4 game 7s in the finals. The home team won 3 out of 4. And the 4th was a miracle comeback, right? The KD or the Kyrie, LeBron, Cavs being the Doves. Yeah, that's true. History is on our side. I don't, can't take that for granted. I think one thing that this Thunder team struggles with, and I know they say the right things in interviews and they act the right way, but I think as a young team, I think they have trouble sort of compartmentalizing when they are up and when they're like, statistically or historically or likely to win a game. I think they let off the gas just a little bit. And we saw that again tonight. Even though they say the right things, even they're like, Shea was saying, I can't remember the exact quote, but basically being like, not almost winning is not winning. You didn't actually win. So just being up 3-2 doesn't matter. They say the right things, but I don't know if I'm convinced, just because of how often it keeps happening in every single series, even going back to the Memphis series, by the way, where they had a little bit of a struggle sweeping the Grizzlies because of that game 4. They have a little bit of trouble closing out series when they are up. And it's not until it's not until their backs are against the wall and it feels that way and it is that way that they actually will get back into things. And we've also seen that in the regular season too. They kind of played with their food in a lot of these games against some poor teams. They just have a hard time when it seems like they're going to win, actually locking in as much as the other team does. And it's hurt them a lot in these playoffs. It's caused a lot of adversity that we've had to grow through. But I think, I'm getting a little bit off of your original comment there, but I think I don't want this to be like, oh, historically we're going to win, so we're going to be fine. Have that mentality. I think we look at this like, hey, we have one game to win this. It's now or never. Richard Rice, I'm worried about game 7. It's fair. It's fair to worry about after a loss, but Us on the pod and the team in general has the 0-0 mentality. We're going to keep going with that, and just you got to trust that your guys will start to make shots. You got to trust your guys to make shots. I said, yeah, we bottled it. This Pacers team, we right up for it in the game 7. Need better 3-point shooting, absolutely. Next season. Yeah, I mean, Isaiah Joe is what you wanted there. You were hoping that was who was going to do it in the playoffs, but he just kind of has. We've not been able to play him as many minutes as I would have hoped just because of the defensive liability. I don't really know who you can go out and get in the free agent market. I think that's really tough with their money situation, but that's a conversation that we may be having after game 7. Is it me or was the Halle injury just a mind game? I don't know. I think I've thought about the Halle injury for a little bit. Lou in the chat. I think he's hurt. I think he's not 100%, but I think you could say the same thing for like most players at this point in the NBA finals. You know what I mean? Like not many people are going to be 100%. Is his that much more of a problem that it needs a Shams tweet to update everybody? I don't know. I'm not his medical doctor, but yeah, I will say he wasn't 100% because there was a lot of, I made a little mental note of this where there was multiple possessions where Halliburton wasn't even touching the ball on offense. And then part of that was when TJ McConnell was going off. But to have your like quote unquote star player just never touch the ball, not even drive up the floor to start and just sit in the corner with like Kaysen or Caruso, whoever it was, and never be a part of the offense. That tells me that there, he's not 100% physically and trying to keep it, keep the amount of strain on his calf to a minimum. So I don't know. I think he's hurt, but I don't know if he's as hurt as we thought he was before this game. So yeah, that's it. That's all I see for questions. So I'm going to end it there. We did get a nice 20, 25 minute pod out of this. I think that's all people want after this loss. But if you did tune in live, thank you. Appreciate it. We always are thankful for that. And I always forget to do this at the beginning, so I'll say it again. At the end, if you have not done so, please subscribe and like this video. We got one more game to get to 1,000 subs. We're really close. Appreciate everyone who's already subbed already, but if you've not, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you have a Twitter, you can follow us at OKC Topic Thunder. And we'll be back at the very latest Sunday for Game 7 recap. And until then, God bless. Hoop when you can. And as always,